Wait to see where's my PowerPoint. Is it? Let me get this out the way. Sister Carol is here. Okay. All right. Can everyone see my screen?
Oh, yes, sir.
Yes, sir. How you like the graphics?
Heavy.
Yeah, very powerful.
There's a website, and all you do is you type in words and it's an AI and it generates the picture for you.
Wow.
You need to text me that app.
And it's a free app. So all these pictures you see of the black man and the black woman in the universe, all I do is I type in black man and universe, or black woman and universe, and it generates the picture, and then I just add the font and the wording. But that's what and I don't have to deal with any copyright stuff because all these pictures are actually my own through the app. So
So you can type in Black God, right?
Say what?
You can type in Black God, right?
You can type in whatever you want. You might have to play around with the wording a little bit. But I think if you look a few Zoom meetings back, if you go on the YouTube channel, I typed in black man, scientist, and the universe, and it had that black man with the gray afro, like the Ancient of Days. That's the picture that came up. I can live with that. So the thought that was the first thing on my mind when I woke up around 1:30 was, why does the devil keep our people apart from his social equality? And then as I was sitting there chewing on that, I saw the Dianetic tech. I saw the bridge between our Supreme Wisdom lessons and the science of the mind. So what I'm going to present now, by Allah's grace, all of this was just coming. I'll say it like this: Allah says in the Holy Quran that He teaches man by the pen what man knew not. Correct?
Right. Absolutely.
Okay. So all of this was just flowing as I was typing, and that's why I give credit and I give thanks to Allah for this.
Praise be to Allah.
Write it down and share it, and I hope this makes sense. So let's just jump right into it. Let me get this out of the way first. Okay. So why does the devil keep our people apart from his social equality? It says, because he does not want us to know how filthy he is in all his ways. He is afraid because when we learn about him, we will run him from among us. Socialist means to advocate a society of men or groups of men for one common cause. Equality means to be equal in everything. And that is Lost Found Muslim lesson number 1, question number 8. So the first thing we're going to look at is, what is the relationship between the devil with regards to the Scientology or the tech found in Dianetics? Then when it says apart, well, what does that mean? How is that connected to the Dianetic process? How can we interpret the concept of social equality with regards to Dianetics? So we're building up an ARC between our Supreme Wisdom lessons, but we're using the Scientology or the Dianetics as a tool to unlock our lessons so we can get more out of our lessons. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So our lessons, in my humble opinion, are like equations that are written in the form of pictures. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has taught us that Allah is a scientist who speaks in the language of formulae.
Yes.
And I believe that our Supreme Wisdom Lessons is a book of formula. And as we study the lessons and we memorize them, When we memorize them, they become internalized. And as we internalize these lessons, they are going to unlock a level of wisdom that's already contained in our genetic makeup, our DNA. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Because thinking on or contemplating our lessons is designed to raise the vibratory frequency of our thought. Okay. The word filthy, how is that connected to our study of the tech?
Aberrations.
Yes, ma'am. And we're gonna go a little bit deeper into that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. No, I understand you just bearing witness. That's all right. It's not a problem. All his affairs. What is meant, or what could be meant when it says that he's afraid because we're going to learn all about him? And why is that relevant with regards to Dianetic processing? And what is the significance of the word run? Running is very significant in the tech. And then we'll look at the concept of the advocate and the society of men or groups of men. How is that connected with our aberration? And what is the one common cause?
Being clear, that just came up to my mind.
Oh, that's the goal, but that's not the common cause of the reactive mind.
No, I thought you said that. What is oh God, when you said running.
Come on, brother.
It says, oh my God, the word running. You said running, and I took that as when I took it as being clear because.
Well, running is processing.
Yeah.
Right. Running is processing.
Yeah,
because we're going to look at this from the perspective of the devil, because, and you're going to understand as we get to it, we're coming at this from a totally different angle. Totally different angle. Because the devil has a common cause too.
Oh, absolutely.
The reactive mind has a common cause, and that's why we have to run him from among us.
Yeah, that's what I meant about becoming clear. Okay, yes.
That is the goal, but that's not the devil's goal. But that is our goal. Okay. For Brother Tabat, I know he hasn't heard this before, but when you go into our student enrollment, and Brother Robin dropped this on us a while back, may Allah be pleased with him. But when you look at the maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth, God of the universe, that is a cycle of action. Because first we make, then we have to own, then we have to be the cream of the planet Earth. And when you look at cream of the planet Earth, and we discussed it briefly last week, the word cream is that which rises to the top, correct?
Yes, sir.
So if it's rising to the top, that would be the same as going up the tone scale, yes? Okay. And in Arabic, because what we do is we clear the words in Arabic, the word safwa in Arabic means cream. And if you look that word up in an Arabic dictionary, it also means to be clear. So first we have to make, then we got to own. Own means to take possession or power of, yes?
Yes. Absolutely.
And when we take possession or own our own mind, that allows us to rise to the top. That's when we become the cream of the planet Earth, and then we can become the God of our universe. And in the tech, there's 3 universes. There's the mesh universe, there's our universe, and then there's the universe that belongs to others. Our job is to gain mastery over our universe, meaning our mind, our viewpoint, our environment. And then when we gain mastery over that, then we can gain access to mastery over the universe that's outside of ourselves, which is really just an extension of ourselves. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. It does.
And then what does it mean to be equal in everything? So everything you see in red that comes from our lessons, we're going to find this in the Holy Quran. We're going to find this in the tech of Dianetics. So we're going to be able to use this lesson to understand Dianetics. Everyone ready?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Ready.
All right, so what's the learning objectives? Here's all the questions we're gonna touch on. What is devil? We're gonna touch on that question related to the tech of Dianetics. What is his social equality? What could be meant by filthy? So I'm posting all these questions because these are gonna be the specific focus points that we're gonna touch on. How do we learn about the devil? How do we run him from among us? How does the devil advocate for a society of men? What is the significance of groups of men? And what is the one common cause? Okay.
I like this.
So as long as we understand our lessons, and then as we chew on our lessons, it's like it goes back to what it said on Closing the Gap on page 19, where it says that the Savior used to teach the believers in the form of pictures, which is the way you teach children, and that the truth, the picture is not the truth, but the more you go into the picture, the more truth you can extract, correct?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now we know, in the words of the Most High Elijah Muhammad, he said, and I'm paraphrasing, if he were to answer the questions in the modern sense, he could write volumes based on just each question. So perhaps he was giving us a clue as to what our assignment would be at a future time, that it might be up to us to write those volumes off of each lesson or off of each question. So that could be, because if you look at what the minister has done over all the years he's been teaching, the root of his teaching is the supreme wisdom, correct?
Yes. Yes.
And if you look at how many lectures he has given and how many words he has spoken volumes, which we can't even comprehend, volumes based on the lesson, correct?
Yes.
Okay. What could be meant by equal and everything? All of this is in our supreme wisdom lessons, but all of this is Dianetic tech. What is devil? Here's where we begin. I love this picture. When this picture came up, I said, this was perfect. I typed in devil and universe. And this is the picture it gave me.
Yeah.
Huh? Someone say something?
No, I just said,
Oh, yeah.
sorry.
That's okay. No, that's fine. So how is this connected to the reactive mind? In the book Dianetics, Brother L. Ron Hubbard says it like this. He says, if there ever was a devil, he designed the reactive mind, correct?
Yes.
Okay, where you see DB1, that just means Dianetics Book 1. Okay, that's on page 60. He says, this is the mind which keeps war a thing of alarm, which makes politics irrational, which makes officers snarl, which makes children cry in fear of the dark. This is the mind which makes a man suppress his hopes, which holds his apathies, which gives him irresolution when he should act, and kills him before he has begun to live. So it is this mind that keeps us from manifesting the God that is in ourselves. Does that make sense?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I'll just raise my hand.
Hmm?
Listening to how he worded it, I kind of slightly disagree. Only because he said if there were ever a devil, he had to be the one to make the reactive mind.
Mm-hmm.
Everything in existence is from Allah.
Okay.
And who is God? I think the minister was talking about Allah. Working from the left side of himself. This is the destructive side of himself.
Mhm.
So the devil is the one, or in us, and Allah is the control fire, and us is very uncontrolled. So that's the only difference that I see. And now going into everything you listed after that, I absolutely see what that mind produced. So I agree with the rest of it.
Okay. We can go with that. Sister Angela, I went back and I think you were the one that mentioned, you were the one that mentioned the deportation of Moon.
Mm-hmm.
I went back as I was going through, I was like, oh yeah, I remember hearing this before, but it was a while ago. And to kind of add with what you're saying. And there's gonna be something that's gonna come up in our presentation.
Mm,
For the blasting away of the moon, we have to understand that the Caucasian wasn't present at that time,
mm.
okay? And have we not been taught that this brown jerk have always given us a problem?
Yes.
Okay, so could we say that the reactive mind has always been present?
Could we say too, Brother Luke, mine had always will be?
I would
That-
say, I would say no.
The only reason I'm saying that is because if we're looking for a time frame when it will be like a string around our finger, and it always got me that this was number 8. 8 is this infinity sideways.
Mhm.
And 8 sideways is the infinity sign.
Mhm.
So there is a reason, just like the deportation of the moon, the God allowed it to happen because he was going to manifest something out of it.
Right.
So I don't think to that degree, but I think it's something that we definitely gonna have to control to use for good.
Mhm, mhm. Now, here's 2 points I'll add to why I believe the reactive mind will not always be. Number 1, when you say that we'll have them wrapped around our pinky and it won't bother us, to me, I look at that as removing the charge and refiling it into standard memory banks. Meaning we have the memory of it, but not the emotion. And number 2, when you look at that 20-year period that the Most High Elijah Muhammad speaks about, he speaks from the perspective of that brown germ being removed so that it can never be used again to enslave people.
Mm-hmm.
So remember, the reactive mind ceases to exist if there is nothing contained in it. If all of the perceptics and all of the charges removed from that, and everything is refiled in standard memory banks, that would mean that on that level, that the reactive mind would be empty.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean we can't take on any new suppressors if something happens. But that would tell us that it is possible. And I'm just saying that based on our Savior has arrived, that he says the time will come when the things of this world, we won't even be able to remember it.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can't remember the pain, and if all of that has been removed from us, I look at the words of the Most High Elijah Muhammad as stating that the reactive mind is going to be removed.
Looking at it like that, I think the difference between devil and Satan, I guess that's where I'm at with it. Devil is more impish, like an imp. So I agree
Mhm.
on that level.
Mhm.
The mind of Satan is probably where I'm going with.
Okay. And
Yes,
that's being taken off the planet as we speak.
Yes, sir.
Sister Shayla.
No, sir, you went exactly where I was gonna go with it. Thank you.
Oh, praise be to Allah. Now, just to share this, 4 demons and 4 devils. Our lessons say, why does Muhammad and any Muslim murder the devil? And what is the duty of each Muslim in regards to 4 devils, correct?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Okay, in Dianetics, page 107, he says, this is L. Ron Hubbard speaking, proving this was very easy. In clearing every case, without exception, one or another of these demons were discovered. Some cases had 3 or 4. So in Dianetics, he speaks of 4 demons. Our lessons speak of 4 devils. Is that a coincidence?
I don't know.
No such thing as coincidence.
Right.
Okay. Something about 4 devils.
Mhm.
So now, what is the relationship between the devil of the Supreme Wisdom lessons and the reactive mind?
The devil and every
In our lessons, it says, what is devil? Okay, and that's in Lost Found Muslim lesson number 2.
And Eli grafted germ from the original?
Yes, sir. A grafted man which is made weak and wicked, or any grafted live germ from original is devil. But now let's see how this corresponds to the text. See, here's how I see the relationship between the Supreme Wisdom, teaching of the Most High Elijah Muhammad, and Dianetics. And the more I study, I understand why the minister gave us this as a tool. The Most High Elijah Muhammad gave us truth, undiluted truth. He gave us the teaching. And L. Ron Hubbard is really explaining the same truth, but he's explaining in the language of equations. Does that make sense? It's almost like he's giving us the framework of the teaching. So it's not taking anything away from, and it doesn't mean that the teaching is dependent upon it, because truth stands alone, correct?
Right.
Absolutely.
But when we use the tech as a tool, it's like we're using equations to understand the underlying physics of the teachings of the Most High Elijah Muhammad. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Especially if it bears witness to,
Right.
I mean, it's kind of poetic that you're saying what you're saying, because an average person will say, well, isn't Dianetics considered a devil since it's grafted from the teachers, you know what I'm saying, like that?
Mhm.
But because Dianetics bears witness to the truth of the teachings, like you said, it's a tool.
It's a tool. Now watch this. One of the main criticisms of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he has us studying this information from a Caucasian man, correct?
That's right. Yes, sir.
Yet, weren't we given the book, Bible, and told to look into our poison book, and that book was authored by Sir John Hawkins?
Mm.
So how can you say the minister is wrong by having us study a book or text from a Caucasian man when the Most High Elijah Muhammad told us to study the Bible, which was produced by a Caucasian man? Why the discrepancy? Because we're told to look into the poison book, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't the poison book part of the wants and beliefs that's on the back page of the Final Call newspaper?
Mhm.
Right.
Yes.
And not only was Sir John Hawkins a Caucasian, but in some circles, it was said that he was also homosexual, correct?
Yeah, King James too. Yes, sir.
That's what I'm talking about. King James was homosexual. Go ahead, Sister Peggy. You're on mute. You're on mute, Sister Peggy.
Are you speaking of Sir John Hawkins or King James?
No, what did I say?
Sir John Hawkins.
Oh, my mistake. Thank you for the correction. No, King James, my mistake. King James, if we understand the history, if we go into the history of the Bible, prior to the King James Version of the Bible, you have what's called the Bishop Bible. There's a history of different Bibles going back. And over time, you have the Vulgate Bible, you have the Wycliffe Bible. There's many different versions of the Bible. Under King James, the book was changed. Oh, someone got to go on mute. And one of the ways I was told that you can prove that the Bible was rewritten, and by one of the ways was the person by the name of William Shakespeare.
Yes.
If you go into the 46th Psalms,
Mm-hmm.
and if you count from the beginning, 46 words, I believe you're going to come to the word will. And if you go to the end and count backwards, no, you're going to find the word shake. Shake. And if you go to the end and count back 46 words, you're going to find the word spear. And there's another way that you can actually find the word will, and then I am, which gives you William Shakespeare. William Shakespeare encoded his name in the 46 Psalms because at the time that he did it, he was 46 years old. That's one of the mathematical patterns in the Bible to prove he wanted. He is like Dustin Hoffman in that movie Wag the Dog, where Dustin Hoffman wanted credit for producing the news that took away the fact that the president at the time had an affair. Dustin Hoffman wanted credit. And Robert De Niro played an agent of the government and said, no one can ever know that you did this.
Right.
And because he said, no, I want everyone to know, the movie ends by saying, and today in the news, such and such director was found dead in his pool. Because the truth of what took place could not be made known. So William Shakespeare it couldn't be made known, because then the people would know that he changed it, correct?
Right.
So he encoded his name in the Bible to show that it was changed from original. But the bishop's Bible has a different number of books in it,
Books.
King
Right.
James Version does.
Mm-hmm.
But the bottom line is this: how do you criticize the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan by saying he's wrong to have us study Dianetics, a book produced by a Caucasian man, yet the Most High Elijah Muhammad told us to look into the Poison Book, which is a book that was produced by a Caucasian man.
Stuck on a time track.
Okay. We'll get past it. Okay. So now what is devil? A grafted man which is made weak and wicked. So we're going to look at these three terms right here. Grafted man, weak and wicked. And how is that connected to Dianetics? How is that connected to the study of the text and the science of the mind? So these three key terms, not only are they found in our Supreme Wisdom lessons, but they're in the supreme technology of Dianetics, and we're going to find them in the Holy Quran. So that means we can use the Holy Quran because Allah says, I've given you a book explaining all things, correct?
Yes, sir.
If he's given us a book explaining all things, it has to include the science of the mind.
Mm-hmm.
If the science of the mind is not in the Holy Quran, then that ayah is incorrect. Then he can't say, I've given you a book explaining all things. So through the law of contradiction, it has to be true that the text of Dianetics is already in the Holy Quran. Y'all with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So when you look at the word grafted, in the Merriam-Webster dictionary, it says to implant living tissue surgically, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And to implant means to fix or set securely or deeply. But now the word implant is a word that's actually used in the tech of Dianetics. Okay. By definition, this is Merriam-Webster, implant means to set permanently in the consciousness or habit patterns.
Mm-hmm.
So a grafted man is a man or a woman that has a pattern or habits that have been set in or implanted in their consciousness.
Yes, sir.
And the word habit, the word compulsion, and the word obsessions follow in the same light. So a grafted man or a grafted woman is a person in whom a habit, a compulsion, or an obsession has been surgically introduced into their thinking. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And we look at the word, and we use the word coins, right? Coins. Who remembers what coins represents?
So we have compulsion, right?
Compulsion,
Obsession.
obsessions,
I don't remember what the I is for.
insanity.
You can finish it.
Okay, N stands for neuroses,
And psychosis.
and S is psychosis. Even though we know psychosis starts with a
Right.
P, P is silent. So we represent all of these chemical, not chemical imbalances, all these mental imbalances into the word coins.
Right.
Maybe that's why Judas did what he did. He got 33 of them. Did he get 33 or did he get 30 pieces of silver?
30.
Yeah, so he got 30 coins. So he was really aberrated. The word implant, the word inculcate, the word instill, and the word inseminate and inflicts mean to introduce into the mind. These are what the synonyms of the word implant mean. To introduce into the mind. This is straight from the Merriam-Webster dictionary. I didn't even use the Dianetic dictionary on this one. So a grafted man could be someone in whom a habit pattern has been secured in their mind. In our wisdom, our supreme wisdom, this is like sticking a needle in the brain. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Like that, Sister Shayla? You're on mute. You're on mute, Sister Shayla.
No, no, go ahead, brother. Don't listen to me. Go ahead.
Okay.
It was funny.
Okay, so the implant of Dianetics is the same as the grafted of our lessons, yes?
Yes,
Okay, and the needle in the brain.
yes.
Now, what is weakness? Allah says in the Holy Quran, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. Now Allah has lightened your burden, and He knows that there is weakness in you. This comes from Surat al-Anfal, which is titled Voluntary Gifts, and it's found in Surah 8, ayat number 66. Okay. Now, the term lighten your burden in Arabic, the root word is khafa. Khafa means lighten your burden. But when you define this word, and as soon as I put the first one up here, it's going to hit home, I think, everyone. The word means to decrease in weight. Sister Peggy, you like that one. See, this is why I like reading the faces, because I can see. So when she weighs other than her own self, could this be connected? Weighing other than self?
Yeah,
Yes,
On a
I
bird?
see it.
I
Okay.
see it. Very
I
So-
see it as stress too.
But that's exactly what it is.
That's what
It
it
means
is.
it means to ease or relieve something oppressive or difficult.
Atmospheric pressure too.
Atmospheric pressure. It's funny you say that because I was thinking about problem number 7 and problem number 8, and I'm going to study that from the perspective of the tech to see how that connects to the atmosphere of our thinking.
Mm.
That hopefully is a PowerPoint that will be coming in the near future with Allah's help. So lighten your burden in Arabic is khafa, to decrease in weight. And this is one of the reasons why we have trouble reducing our weight, even though we change our diet, is because we have not changed our thinking.
Mm.
So our stressful thinking produces the ACTH, or the adrenal corticotropic hormone, which is also connected to cortisol. And cortisol is one of the hormones our body produces that will disallow us from losing weight. So we can fast, we can eat 1 meal a day all we want. We can go on juice fasts, we can do all that, but for some reason the weight just won't drop. It's because the physical weight is a representation of the emotional and the mental weight that we're carrying around. So that makes sense.
Right. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Word khafa also means to reduce. Well, in the text, aren't you supposed to reduce every engram that you find?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Mhm.
We're supposed to take the charge off of that, correct?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
And to Brother Tabat and Brother Nkazi, I don't think you've heard this before, so I'm gonna share this right now. Our body, in the tech, the goal is to get people to cry, correct?
Yes.
Mhm.
And that's how it's called reducing the charge. You get people to cry.
Mhm.
But how that works on a biochemical level is that for every stressful event we've gone through from our childhood to present time, our body produces a hormone called adrenal corticotropic hormone, which is they use the term ACTH. It's a stress hormone.
Mhm.
And over a prolonged period of time, that ACTH accumulates in the body. And what that does, it reduces the strength of the immune system, which means the more stress you have, the more your immune system decreases, which causes you to have more illnesses and sicknesses, right?
Yes, sir.
This is why the uncle of W. DeFraud and his wife, that's why they had so many sicknesses.
Mhm.
Okay, if you look at the sicknesses in problems number 1, problem number 2, problem number 5, and problem number 6, and if you read page 65 of Dianetics, you're going to find the same psychosomatic illnesses in Dianetics are the same ones that are listed in the problem bar. Dianetics page 65, you'll find the same problem, same sicknesses. So what happens is, over a prolonged period of time, it's not that we just start getting old at the age of 40, 45, and 50. It's just that now we have 40, 50, 60 years of accumulated stressful events that have taken place, but we have not found a way to get the stress out. This is why women live longer than men, because women will do what? Women cry. Men are told, don't be a baby, don't be a punk, suck it up.
Mhm.
But tears of happiness have a different chemistry than tears of grief. In the tears of grief, scientists have found ACTH. So when you can touch that painful event in someone's time track and you get them to cry, you're getting them to release the ACTH. And L. Ron Hubbard says in Dianetics, ACTH is like a glue that keeps the engrams in place. In other words, the more we can cry, the more we can touch those painful events in our past and cry, that is how the painful events are removed. The pain of our past is removed through tears of grief. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And what is a Dianetic release? It is a release. The Dianetic release is an individual from whom have been released the current or chronic mental and physical difficulties and painful emotions. So the Dianetic release, if you look at the definition of it, is it not the same as the word khafa in Arabic?
Oh, yes.
It's
Yes.
synonymous, right?
It's synonymous. Yes.
So this helps to prove when Allah says, I've given you a book of explaining all things, then Allah is explaining the Dianetic release to us, yes?
Yes.
But Allah
Yes.
is speaking and describing it in the language of a formula, meaning we have to do the work to extract the wisdom that's in the formula, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Now, if you look at the word weakness, so now Allah has lightened your burden. Could we say that Allah is saying, look, I'm giving you something that will lighten your burden, something that will remove the grief from you? Can we say that?
Yes.
And it says, and he knows that there is weakness in you. But now when we look up the word weakness in Arabic, we come to the word da'ufa. Da'ufa. And it means to become weak or attenuated. Again, this is straight from an Arabic dictionary. Why is the word attenuated significant? In the text, you have a concept called anaton, which is a word that is a combination of analytical attenuation. So he combined it, making one word. And what it means is it's a diminution or weakening of the analytical awareness of an individual for a brief or extensive period of time is sufficiently great, it can result in unconsciousness. It stems from the re-stimulation of an engram, which contains pain and unconsciousness. It is a drop in ARC to an extreme. So the word weakness in Arabic in the Holy Quran is the same as the concept of analytical attenuation that's found in Dianetics. Can you see the relationship? So can we say in this one ayat number 8, verse number 66, we got two concepts that are found in the text of Dianetics, yes?
Yes, sir.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, wickedness. Allah says in the Holy Quran, nay, surely the record of the wicked is in the prison. And what will make thee know what the prison is? It is a written book. Okay, so how can a book be a prison? How can a book be a prison? Now that's in Surah 83, ayat 7 through 9. So the word wicked, when we clear the word and we go to the root word is fajra. Fajra. It means to break up or cleave. It means fornication. It means to descend suddenly. It means detonation, explosion, or blasting, Sister Angela.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So the word wicked is connected to fornication, which causes us to do what on the tone scale? Don't we descend?
Mhm.
Or we go down the tone scale?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Blasting.
And isn't that what happened to that guy who was mad? He got mad. He decided to drill a hole in the earth and destroy
Mhm.
everything.
Yep. Yes, sir.
Okay. And that's how we get sometimes. It's called cutting off your nose to spite your face.
Yeah,
We get
Mhm.
mad. We want to take our bat and our ball and go home and say, the hell with all y'all. I'm leaving.
yep.
We detonate. We explode.
Uh-huh.
And the word prison comes from the Arabic word sajana, which means to imprison or captive. So now, really, wickedness and filthy are the same, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
But here's the thing we have to understand. The fornication, what we engage in, because I think I speak for myself, I'm not clear yet. And I know, some of us here might have come down from the wheel, so some of us might be clear, but the majority of us are crazy as hell, right?
Right.
So we're all wrestling with something. But here's the thing we have to understand. What we're wrestling with is something that doesn't belong to us. Somewhere in our time track, we came across a skunk that sprayed us, yes?
Mm.
Mhm.
So we're walking around with someone else's funk on us, but the funk don't belong to us, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, why is this relevant? We'll go back one more. So I want us to understand that the things that we're wrestling with right now, the compulsions, the obsessions, the insanities, the neuroses, the psychoses, these don't belong to us. Okay. English lesson number C1 says, why does he fear now that he's a grown man? Why? Because he was taught to eat the wrong food when he was a child, correct?
Yes, sir.
Contained in that is a formula which shows us what. Now take out the word fear and add any one of the 7 impediments that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has given us in our self-improvement study guide. Why is he proud now? Why is he envious? Why is he greedy? Why is he fearful? Why is he vain? Okay, any one of the 7 impediments. Those characteristics are connected to something that happened in our childhood. And we had to produce a certain behavior in order to survive a certain environment that we didn't have control over, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. There's a doctor by the name of Dr. Gabor Mate.
Mhm.
Look him up on YouTube. One of the things he says is, like right now, if I were to say something that would be disrespectful, then individuals on the call would come to the defense of the person who was offended, or the person who was offended could just leave the Zoom meeting, correct?
Yes.
But as a child, when certain things take place, could everyone just go on mute? I hear in the background. Everyone just go on mute real quick. Okay. But as a child, if certain things took place in our childhood, we couldn't backtalk our parents. We couldn't leave the house, and we didn't have the strength to overpower individuals that are in our family. So as a child, we were at the mercy of whatever behavior was taking place in our home. And then we had to produce a type of mindset that would help us survive an environment that was inhospitable. Does that make sense?
Perfect.
Yes.
Okay. So I want to emphasize the us. The minister says it like this: be gentle with yourself. Okay. Give ourselves the same mercy and kindness that we give to other people. Okay. Because what we're acting out right now is not our own behavior. We are stuck in the valence of some other people that are on our time track, correct?
Yes, sir.
Right.
So what does he do? He keeps us apart. Okay. Why does the devil keep us apart from his social equality? Well, when you look at the word apart, it means to be divided into two or more parts or to hold different opinions, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the devil, the reactive mind, keeps us divided or separated from the engrams. So the devil keeps us apart from his social equality. What is his social equality? We're going to get into that. The devil's social equality represents the content of the engrams. Does that make sense?
Mm.
Okay. And he keeps us apart from his social equality. And our lesson says what? He does not want us to know how filthy he is, right? When we learn about him.
Right.
So the job of the reactive mind is he puts up what's called engramic commands so that as soon as we get close to the engram as an auditor, what happens? You have the bouncers, you have the deniers, you have the groupers, you have the misdirectors, and you have the holders, correct? The
Yes,
devil is trying to keep us away from his social equality. Because it's the devil that keeps us illiterate and ignorant, correct?
Yes.
Mhm.
Right.
On the level of the mind, it is the reactive mind that keeps us illiterate and ignorant. So when we look at Lost Found Muslim lesson number 1, question number, what is it? Question number 4, 6, I think it is. Why does the devil keep our people illiterate? So he can use them for a tool and also a slave. He keeps
Yes,
them
sir.
blind to themselves so he can master them, illiterate and ignorant, yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, yeah,
That's the same characteristic of the reactive mind and what it does to us. The reactive mind controls us and rules us. How do you know? Because the reactive mind is designed to do everything to satisfy the physical body. Y'all with me?
Yes, sir.
And when you look at any compulsion, any obsession, any habits, any types of addiction, those things are connected to something with regards to the physical body. Eating, drinking, smoking, sex, all those things are connected to the satisfaction of the physical body. The reactive mind, in Buddhism, they call it the monkey mind. The monkey mind is the mind that's always got to be doing something. The physical body is never satisfied.
Mm.
Can you go back over that one more second? Because that sounds like me. Say that again. The monkey mind is what?
The monkey mind is in Buddhism, you have what's called the monkey mind. And the monkey mind represents the mind that can never rest. The image in Buddhism is how a monkey will jump from tree to tree to tree looking for stuff.
Oh,
It's kind of like what we do on our phones. We look at this Instagram thing, then we go look at this Instagram thing, then we go to Facebook, then we go to Twitter, then we go do this, then we look at here, then we go here. We go through we call it going down the rabbit hole. Whether it's Facebook, YouTube. For us, some, not all, for some, it's difficult for us to sit still and do nothing. If try sitting still with no cell phone, no TV, no nothing for 30 minutes. And you'll see how much the mind is trying to force us to do the mind can't take it. The mind has to be doing, I say it because this is what I deal with myself. Every day I try to find one point in the day, I set my timer, 30 minutes, sit still, do nothing. Put the phone down, I try to meditate 30 minutes. And my mind is like, it's like a person in prison trying to get out. No, and it's like, go do this, go do this. And I'm like, nope, I'm sitting here for 30 minutes, I'm not doing nothing. And then I go for 30 minutes, then I go, okay, let me try for 35 minutes now. Okay. And if you ever want to see how crazy the mind is, try to sit in a room with no sound, no TV, no cell phone. Try to do it for 30 minutes or try to do it for 60 minutes. And for some of us, you'll understand what I'm saying. The mind The mind is different than the center of awareness that L. Ron Hubbard calls the I. The I represents the self, the theta that's inside the mess. The mess, this physical body, is the reactive mind. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Later on down the road, he calls it the genetic entity. The genetic entity is the physical body. So when we look at the reactive mind keeps us divided, if you go and read the book of Romans, the Bible, a book authored by a Caucasian man, that says, it talks about the law of my body is the law of my members is at war with the law of my mind. It's talking about in Romans chapter 7, this war that goes on between our mind and our body. The whole purpose of religion is to, and if you look at Buddhism, you can look at the Baha'i, you can look at Christianity, you can look at Judaism, any religion you look at, the goal of that faith tradition is to really teach us about ourselves as the force and power that exists in this physical body. And the goal is to gain mastery over the self. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead, Sister Andrew.
While you were speaking, I had a cognition, and I'm matching it with some. Brother Nuri was here, and he spoke yesterday in Newark, and he prefaced something he let us know with Supreme Wisdom. Question number 13, problem number 13.
Mhm.
But as you were talking, and I'm listening to the social equality, I'm listening to you, and of course going through what is it, Instagram, Facebook, because now when I think social, I think about social media.
Mhm.
And it just seems, because we know he's filthy in all his affairs. However, there's something in his social equality that at least they have an opportunity, enough quiet to be successful.
Mhm.
And it seems that the social engineering that they have done for us is to keep us consistently distracted.
Mhm.
And not like you said, most of us should have the ability to sit still for 30 minutes without any electronic anything. However, most of us have been programmed not to. So it's just becoming very obvious to me that though he has filth in all his affairs, we are still taught to study him because he's a very successful businessman. And this is what Brother Nori was talking about.
Mhm.
Problem 13, after learning mathematics, which is Islam, and Islam is mathematics,
Mhm.
and we haven't made it into, we have this mathematical theology. That's the part, the transitioning of gaining data and then utilizing it. It's like, and I believe this is where auditing, the tool of auditing, and can help us quiet, or at least be able to see that there is a purposeful distraction ever going that keeps us from, studying self and using that mathematical theology.
Mhm. Yes, ma'am. And what you just said, we're actually going to touch on that towards the end of tonight's presentation. You actually,
Yeah, I saw it when you went through it. I saw it. Praise be to
we're
God.
going to touch on that as well because you're right. You're right on point there. See, the thing about people from the wheel, they can detect thought before the thought happens.
Yeah, that's because you up there too.
I wish. So a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways.
Mm.
Okay. His social equality. Okay. Now, again, to the believers, this is everything that was given just from 1 o'clock to maybe 4 o'clock. And this is why I'm so grateful to the minister for the tech and thankful to Allah for allowing me to wake up this morning to present this. But in doing these presentations and doing the study, this is like a self-medication. This is a prescription for me. Because doing this is what gets my tone up and helps a crazy brother like myself maintain some sense of sanity. But I'm so thankful to Allah for this subject matter.
Mhm.
So when you deal with social, Merriam-Webster says that involves allies. And this means lending to form cooperative and interdependent relationships with others. So our mind could be full of allies. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay, and for
Yeah.
those where it might not make sense, let me say it like this. If we say the devil keeps us apart from his social equality, this implies if we say the devil is the reactive mind, then the content of the engrams represents a group of valences or people from our past, correct?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay, so the reactive mind, the engram is composed of a group of people
That's what I'm gonna do.
that are dealing with one common cause, meaning that group of people in the engram is designed to keep us aberrated. And that's why the devil keeps us apart from his social equality. His social equality is the reactive mind. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But in the tech of Dianetics, these are called allies or allied computations. So what is it? So in other words, based on our level of aberrations, we could have a number of individuals in our mind that provided sympathy when we were in a reduced state. In order to get the sympathy we needed, we had to dramatize the aberration. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Have we ever witnessed someone that in order to get attention, they acted out?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Some of us were as children, did we not act out to get attention?
No,
Yes,
not
sir.
me.
No, sir, no.
No, sir.
The
My
one who
parents-
says, no, not me, is the one who was probably the biggest proponent of
Yeah,
that.
because they didn't know.
No, my mother would have killed me.
That's right.
I couldn't act out. Mm-mm.
You know, it's funny because there was an event that took place around 1976. I remember going to the store with my mom and dad, and I wanted this Mickey Mouse magic set. And I remember cutting up and acting out in the store. And I remember, I still remember sitting in the back seat of the car playing with this magic set on the way home. Little did I know, my father bought it for me to stop my dramatization until he could get me home to cause a Dianetic release of that aberration. Because as soon as I got in the door, out of the view of the public, he snatched me up and he was about to commence on doing some external processing.
Mhm.
And it just so happened I was actually chewing a piece of bubble gum, and when he snatched me, the gum got stuck in my throat. And my mother snatched me from him, took me into the bathroom and hit me on the back. And I guess it scared my dad so bad that that gum saved my behind that day. I just put it that way. Gum saved me. So I was able to spit the gum out. I stopped choking, but I didn't get a beating. But it's just funny how that memory came back, and that was so long ago.
But look, man, your
Yeah.
parents had a level of civilization. Not my mother. We wasn't gonna go home, and the society around her was gonna help her. They was not like gonna say, "Don't do that."
Mm-hmm.
No. That's not where I grew up.
That was a different environment.
Oh my God. Hostile environment.
Yes, ma'am. So this is why people act out. Sometimes people act out, they're actually dramatizing
Mm-hmm.
in the process of dramatizing. Let's look at what's the allied computation. In the Dianetic Technical Dictionary, It says the ally says this is a noun, which means an individual who cooperates with, supports, and helps another for a common object. Here we go, for a common cause, right? See it? Socialist means the society of men or groups of men for one common cause. Y'all see it?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So we're talking about a group of allies or valences. And these valences work together to keep us activated. Okay. It basically means someone who protects a person who is in a weak state and becomes a very strong influence over that person. Okay, and if you remember the Dianetics video, the little boy was in bed, he was sick, and his mother was getting aggravated, but the grandmother said, as long as you're sick, I'm gonna be here. Do you want me to make you a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? Do you remember that video?
Yes, I do.
And he said, That means in order for him to get the love and attention from his grandmother, he had to act like he was sick, correct?
Do what?
Yes.
And then it shows that same boy growing up and he was married and he was.
Oh, absolutely not. It's just that I took everything off the bed and just remade it.
Butt out of his bed and go to work or something like that. But what happened? He was dramatizing. He wasn't feeling, he wanted some attention, so he did the same
Sympathy and
behavior with his wife.
sympathy and
Sympathy, okay? And one thing my wife says, if you want sympathy, she don't say it to me, but if you want sympathy, I can show you where you can find it in the dictionary. It's between SHIT and syphilis. So if you want to find sympathy, you'll find it between those two words. That's what she does, in other words, and in the church, that's part of the code. You don't give anyone sympathy. Because what happens, if you give someone sympathy, you're giving them the tools that will keep them in an attenuated or weakened state.
Right.
Okay, so yes.
Okay, so what you just said about the little boy, how he had to act up to get something
Mhm.
from his grandmother.
Mhm.
And he carried that because he didn't get correction on it. So all his childhood, teenage, and then adulthood, he still had that in him.
Mhm.
And then he gets married. So if the wife would have did is what the grandmother do, is that just like passing it on to the wife and then she'll gonna continue doing it? What he does?
No, because that necessarily is not that's not part of her engram.
But
Well,
she
that- well-
accepted it though.
But that's okay, because sometimes that's what a wife will do. If a brother wants certain things, the wife is gonna do that. Oh, no, not right now. The wife is not gonna look at that from the standpoint of keeping him weak or showing sympathy. Okay, but a sister also has to be wise enough to know that a grown man shouldn't be laying in bed asking for sandwiches when he should have his butt at work somewhere too. That's another way to look at it. Does that make sense?
Yes, I was
It
wondering.
was the context in which that particular thing was portrayed. But now to go further into that, it also showed how if you do that over a prolonged period of time and you act as though you're having a stomach ache, then at a future time, you may develop stomach problems. Okay, that would be called the psychosomatic. Okay, so if you fake certain illnesses over time, you will develop the illness, but it's just based on something that's contained in that engram.
So is that like mental too? Like some people like to play mental to get attention and then eventually they become mentally ill?
Yeah, that could be exactly why some of us are crazy right now. Yep. This is Angela.
yes, sir. I want to clear some of the language up, especially for the auditors, the ones that want to be auditors.
Mhm.
It is not our job as an auditor to be pulled into the engram and start acting like the pre-clear.
Mhm.
Though you are very much in tune in acknowledging
Mhm.
the need of the pre-clear. This is not a cold act or run.
Mhm.
I'm acknowledging that you are, first of all, in my assessment of you, I probably already got the information that there is possibly sympathy engrams lying beneath.
Mhm.
However, at the same time, I am to make you comfortable enough with me that you open these things up to me. So it's a very fine line to tread. You don't want to come off cold
Mhm.
because I ran into a sympathy engram, someone be this harsh person. Because trust me, Sister Angela made a lot of mistakes when I first started auditing because I was more militant in my way of this is me helping you get to your eye. So I had to be unemotional. And I had people just stop getting it was like, I don't want her to order me, she's too rough. So I had to learn how to hear the person and have them feel comfortable, but not to the point that I have taken on their valences as far as this sympathy engram is concerned. And stepping outside of auditing, I have to say this to the MG team and the women in particular. This world is making us cold. That's part of question number 2. The world is making us immovable when it comes to our man. So even if we do see that he's acting out for attention, you are a wife. Sometimes you have to be your wife, not to say I'm gonna help him stay in an aberrated state of a sympathy engram, but there's a reason. Sometimes the sympathy engram is not just showing up because he was keyed and overstimulated. Maybe sometimes the frost in the house is a little bit cold, so this is my way of getting some consoling. So it has to be a very delicate balance in how we view these things. And the last thing I'm gonna say, when we first got on this course, we were very careful not to diagnose people.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Thank you, Justice Angela.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum
Alaikum
salam.
salam.
Brother Luke, man, I'm sorry. I am on my phone, so I can't raise my hand.
Okay, go
I'm
ahead.
on the phone line. You had said, you said a lot, and I really appreciate it. And Sister Angela, thank you for that clarity.
Praise to you.
I'm actually just beginning my drills. For my audit, I've finished most of the written portions of my book. I got a few things, but I'm starting my drills, and that's a lot of what kind of things I'm thinking about, a little anxiety before I start. I want to always find my balance for handling my pre-clear, because the goal is to get to the engrams. And it's just like martial arts, it's not always force coming at somebody. I'm gonna beat it out of you. You have to use whatever works to get that engram, as long as it's integrity and in keeping with the principles. But there was something you said earlier, Brother Lukman. Maybe right before you were talking about acting out, but it made me think of a line from Self-Analysis. Mr. Hubbard said, every suboptimal thought that you have about yourself was put there by somebody else. Everyone. There is not a single thought that you have about yourself being other than God that was not there, that was not put there by other than God. Everything. When the sister, I believe it may have been Sister Angela, that was talking about how the world makes you cold. Just thinking about how my acting out looked when I was coming up. Like, I had a family, I think that was Sister Shayla, who, I had family members who say, oh, you gonna act out? You gonna cry? Let me give you something to act out about.
Right.
And that was the medicine, right?
Mhm.
But when I was in Chicago when I got 13, and the gangs were recruiting, right? And I was tired and I was under a lot of pressure. Then what do I choose from my toolkit to meet the gangs that were recruiting? So by the time I was 15, I was acting out in the street. My parents, they would just get the consequences when they would spill over. But everything leading up, they didn't know what was going on. So we find ways, if we're alive, to rebel against things that thwart our will. Because with God, we'll find a way. Life finds a way. That was a line from Jurassic Park, but it was real. That doctor was telling one of the scientists who thought he knew everything. He said, "No, man, you don't understand. Life finds a way. That is the nature of it. It survives." Right? So I'm just thinking these things through. I'm processing as I'm listening. But that one piece from Mr. Hubbard, I'm finding a lot of traction with that. There's not a single thought that you have about yourself that is suboptimal, that was not placed there by somebody else. So keep that in mind as you learn to get to know yourself, as we get to know ourselves and are learning to love ourselves. And as we're struggling with those parts of ourselves that cause us disapprobation, you know, that we're not, that's not us. We're not the part. That's other than ourselves. But thank you, brother.
Oh, thank you, brother. Thank you, most definitely. Let's see. Okay, next part. Then he says, the weaker person, such as a child, even partakes the characteristics of the ally, so that one may find that a person who has, for instance, a bad leg, has it because a protector or an ally in his youth had a bad leg. Now, after Science of Survival, Handbook for Pre-Clears, and Self-Analysis, there is a course called the Life Continuum. And in the Life Continuum, one of the basic things L. Ron Hubbard speaks about is that whenever there's a person in our life that has passed away, has left, or has failed, that we had a connection with, we take on some of the characteristics of that individual.
Yes, Lord.
Take on some of the behaviors of that individual. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now here's what an ally computation is. He says little more than a mere idiot calculation that anyone who is a friend can be kept a friend by approximating the condition wherein the friendship was realized. It is a computation on the basis that one can only be safe in the vicinity of certain people, and that one can only be in the vicinity of certain people by being sick or crazy or poor and generally disabled. So part of what we do is our sanity is connected to certain people, but these people were in our life when we were sick, crazy, we were going through certain things. That person was the one that was in our life that was a quote unquote friend, that was a friend while we were sick or poor or crazy as hell. So now in order for us to, because some of us don't like being alone, we will act out the sickness, the craziness, or whatever the aberration is in order to get certain people's attention, to get that sympathy, which means to get sympathy, we have to act crazy, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's from Dianetics Book 1, page 298. So what happens is, over time of our acting out certain things, whether they be certain illnesses or sicknesses, whatever it is, over time, our thought produces the chemical environment that produces the psychosomatic. So then we're trying to get attention based on an illness that actually exists now because we were using that as a crutch to gain or maintain attention in the past. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So here's the cycle of action. State of illness. We want sympathy for our sickness, and then we maintain the sickness to maintain the sympathy.
Mhm.
Okay, so we fabricate certain things in our life so we can get attention. So in order to get attention, what we have to do, we have to act sick. So when you look at those coins, the compulsions, the obsessions, the insanity, the neuroses, and the psychoses, we make up stuff in our mind because this is how we can get attention. But the longer we strive for attention, the illnesses become real.
Mhm.
Yes.
That's true.
Okay. So now let's look at that lesson. Why does the devil keep our people apart from social equality? And says that now we're going to run him from among us, right?
Right.
That's interesting because running the devil from among us actually comes up in more than one spot. Because the question is also asked, why do we run Yaqub and his maid devil from the wilderness to the table? So now we got Lost Found Muslim lesson number 1, question number 4, talking about running the devil. And then we got the lesson that talks about why does the devil keep our people apart from social equality? When we learn about him, we will run him from among us. So now look at it from this standpoint. If Yaqub is the father of the devil, then can we look at it from this perspective? Could this represent the relationship between the implanter of the engram, meaning the father, and the devil, which is the reactive mind? Okay. Doesn't our lesson say that Yaqub was an original black man and was the father of the devil? He taught the devils to do this devilment.
Yes.
Is it also possible that 9 times out of 10, some of the aberrative behaviors we have, we got them from our father?
Or mother.
Or mother? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So then we could say our parent was the father of the devil being the characteristic behavior or aberration that we have right now.
Yes, sir.
And they taught us to do that devilment. Because if you look at what we wrestle with right now, didn't we learn it from someone else?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So that could we say that they are the father of the devil that we possess in present time?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In Dianetics, to run means to undergo processing. So can you see the relationship between running Yaqub and running the devil
Mm-hmm.
and engram?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If you also look at the word run down, a rundown is a series of steps which are auditing actions and processes designed to handle a specific aspect of a case in which have a known end phenomena. So you keep running, if you go through you have what's called the survival rundown and the happiness rundown. You have these different rundowns, and how you know the process is over, you're gonna get an end phenomena. Something else will take place at the end that shows you that has been run out. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, on this note, there was just a thought that popped up when I was doing this particular slide. In, it's the L. Ron Hubbard calls these theta postulates. A theta postulate is something that we think about that we have no data on, but it's just one of those what ifs. You don't understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
What if? The minister says, whoever controls the diameter of your thinking controls the circumference of your activity. So if we can ask a question that is outside the circumference of our knowledge, now we've produced a new thought that will distribute or produce a new diameter, which will give us a new circumference, correct?
Yes, sir.
And this is why I say this. When you look at the end phenomena, have you noticed that sometimes in the Holy Quran, you have a section and you get the title of the section, it gives you a short story. And at the end, it will say, and this is why Allah says, Allah says, I am the best knower, or I am the best hearer. You ever see that?
Yes, sir.
Is it possible that that section of the Holy Quran is like a rundown? It's a process. And like, it's almost like Allah saying at the end, if you follow this process, you too will be not the best knower, but you will gain part of my character. You will become a best knower, a best hearer, meaning his attribute is the end phenomena of that process. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay, go ahead, Sister Angela.
I'm just being witness to what you're saying. One of the things that made us, and I'm talking about members of the Nation of Islam, as successful, I mean, the Oregon, Manhattan, on, 46th Street,
Mhm.
they were just in awe how fast we took their information and their tech, and especially how we formulated questions. Most effective auditors don't just stick to that, pre-written script. We go through that to make sure that the person is, and the time that they are quoting, and we want to make sure that they're in that time frame. They're not speaking it was, they say it is, So we make sure that they're there, but the way we formulate questions, and it has to do with how our lessons are written. I don't know if anybody realized that when you came into the Nation, I immediately realized how different a sentence was worded in Supreme Wisdom book versus books that I read in the world, which brings me back to Dianetics. When I ran into emphatically in book 1 by L. Ron Hubbard, I said, not everybody uses this word. And I only seen it in the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So that made me more open to seeing what Allah gave him to give to us and the world.
Yes, ma'am. And it just goes to show, I'm a firm believer, somewhere down the road, L. Ron Hubbard came in contact with the teacher somehow. I just can't do anything else.
Right.
But now also, the word run, when you run out from the Dianetic Technical Dictionary, it means to erase. But when we talk about running Yaqub and it's made up from the root of civilization, what if we use that as a formula to represent process? Y'all with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So now let's look at groups of men. Groups of men could be groups of devils. Okay? Socialists mean society of men or groups of men for one common correct?
Yep.
Yes.
That brings us to the question, what is a grouper? Since we're using the word group. We know a grouper is a type of engrammatic command. And we know there's some basic group, you have the basic engrammatic command, you have a denier, you have a misdirector, okay, you have a holder. What else do you have? You have bouncer.
A bouncer,
Okay.
a misdirector, right?
Misdirector, grouper, holder. You have also one he called the lie factory, which is that's not in book 1, but I've seen that elsewhere. You have some groupers that are called, you have some engrammatic commands that are name shifters. I need everyone to go on mute. Okay. These are the demon circuits, talking about the groups of men or the groups of devils. These are the demon circuits. What's a demon circuit? It's the same as our wisdom says, Surah 114, the whispering of the slinking devil that whispers into the hearts of men from among the jinn and the men. Surah 114, talking about the whispering of the slinking devil, the Arabic word comes from the root word waswasi. And when you clear the word waswasi, it's describing exactly what the demon circuit is. Okay. The demon circuit, the whispering of the slinking devil whispers into the hearts of men from among the jinn and the men. But when you look at that from the standpoint of the tech, do we not have voices within that keep us in chronic stimulation. We think that the voice
Absolutely.
belongs to us. And going back to what was said earlier, that voice is just an implant. Is that what, Brother Scott, that was what you were saying, correct? You still with us? Was that Brother Scott that was speaking? Okay. Well, y'all remember what I was talking about, right?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's all right. No problem, brother. So,
Cool. Yes,
okay.
sir.
So that voice we have in our head, it doesn't belong to us. Now, I'm gonna give you something else. This was something else I just read in the tech. And there was something along the lines of, and this is what I'm currently studying, so I'm trying, I haven't thoroughly studied it, but it's almost as if Ron Hubbard is saying that when you're close, when you're within a certain vicinity of a person, when you have a thought that's contrary to what you were thinking, it's possible that you're picking up the thought of the person you're next to.
Would that be a counter postulate for the?
It's not a counter postulate. It's more like a radio in the head type of thing. You're picking up someone else's thought.
Oh.
And I had a brother told me a while ago, he says, you ever notice sometimes you might be in the grocery store, you might be someplace where there's people, and then out of the blue, you get a weird thought. You say, where in the hell did that thought come from? I wasn't even thinking about that. He says, more than likely, you're picking up the thought that belongs to someone else. And that is something that L. Ron Hubbard was speaking about in one of the, I think it's Creation of Human Abilities, what I'm going through right now. And I think that's what he says there. Sometimes if you're within vicinity of a person, you pick up their thought. Now, what is that from the angle of math and science? Well, in physics, there's a concept called quantum entanglement. And quantum entanglement is a concept where two particles can actually transmit information instantaneously between particles, even though the distance between those particles is a great distance. So the same concept, but when you apply it on this perspective of thought, is it possible that two individuals can be close and one person will actually pick up the thought of the other? Sometimes we do it without even thinking. We'll contact a person and that person was just thinking about us, or they were just talking about us, and all of a sudden we contact them or they contact us. And then we realize that there's some truth to that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that happens a lot.
So is it a coincidence, or did we pick up that thought instantaneously and decide to call that person because we picked up their thought? There's the image of the person's face in our mind, and we say, let me call that. And that's what I try to do now. As soon as an image comes to my mind that's has nothing to do with what I was just doing, I stop what I'm doing and I call that person. But the thought,
Right.
there's
Yes.
a reason why that their picture came to my mind.
Mhm.
And I'm noticing it that more and more, as I try to focus on that when I call that person, they'll make a statement that shows that they had just said something, or they just mentioned something, and then boom, then I call. Okay. And I think we all do that. We're all experiencing that. And one thing L. Ron Hubbard says in the book called The Introduction to Scientology Ethics, he talks about overt and withholds, and how the more our overts and withholds accumulate, that increases our aberrated mind. So our overt and our withholds accumulate in a fine mist that the naked eye can hardly detect. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
And based on the current of our atmosphere, whether it's real cold or warm or swift and changeable, then our overts and our withholds, in the language of Islam, that would be our sins and our secrets.
Mhm.
That actually causes us to go down the tone scale.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So there are voices, and this is going to what Sister Angela spoke about earlier. There are voices or phrases coming from outside that also keep us in chronic re-stim in the form of advertisements, commercials, and music. And I'll give an example. the past 2 days, let's see, today's the 10th, the morning of the 5th and the morning of the 9th. At approximately 6:30, I'm heading to work, going to work, and it seems like at the same time in the morning, the same song is on the radio.
Mm.
And it's a song by a singer named Doja Cat, which is called Paint the Town Red. And for the longest time, I could not get the song out of my head. Not that I'm walking around singing it, but I'm noticing something about this song because I try to study music and beats and frequencies. And there's something in this music I'm looking at. This is designed to be, if you look it up in the dictionary, it's called an earworm. An earworm is something that you hear that you can't get it out your head.
Mhm.
And this song was playing over and over and over. So when I went online to look at the video, to look at the lyrics, I'm like, no wonder they're doing this. Because the lyrics are garbage. That's just my opinion.
It is.
See, there's a difference between what's called rap, which is what I was brought up with, and the stuff today, I call it C-rap. So, if you know what C-rap is, then you understand what I'm calling it. You know, I'm a Public Enemy, Eric B. Rakim, Two Kings and a Cypher, X-Clan. That's what I call it. Okay, but now, as that thought came to mind, as I'm typing up the PowerPoints, I'm like, okay, let's look at this. Let's look at this external demon circuit. Then that happened. I popped up into the book Dianetics, and this is one of the things that popped up. Is what L. Ron Hubbard says. This is push button in its precision. And one knew another's main re-stimulators, meaning the words, voice tones, or music, whatever they are, things which are filed, in the reactive mind bank as part of engrams. One can turn another's analytical power almost completely off, actually render him unconscious.
Mhm.
So when we're looking at these advertisements on TV and the rap music, the thought came to my mind, if you think of the words used in rap music today, are the words or phrases the same as the words or phrases we heard when we were growing up?
No, sir.
No. But the music is,
We wouldn't know because these words or phrases are part of the circuits, they're part of the engram. If you understand what I'm saying, some of the things that are being put forth in the music are part of the circuits sometimes that we think in our own mind that we think the voice belongs to us.
Right.
mm,
I can almost guarantee if you sit down and write a list of some of the terms, the phrases that come to your own mind, if you write the list of them, I can almost guarantee if you go and just type that phrase or word into Google and type rap music, you will probably find that word or those phrases in some of the lyrics of some of the music that we listen to, and we're not even aware that these phrases are in the music. Does that make sense, or did I just confuse?
Absolutely.
no,
Yes,
that makes
sir.
sense.
Because if they have governed, remember, we took everything from them except what?
The language.
Except the language.
That's right.
So how do they rule us? They rule us through language.
The
Yes,
word
sir.
is powerful.
Mhm.
So when you look at the words in the rap music, not to say all the phrases in the rap music, but 9 times out of the 10, if I was to pull up the lyrics to some of the most popular songs right now, and we look down those lyrics, you're gonna come across a word or phrase that might re-stimulate or cause us to go back on the time track to a point in our past. And if we're listening to the music and we're not even aware of it, then wouldn't that be in agreement with L. Ron Hubbard says, that one can turn another analytical power almost completely and render him unconscious? Is this how they're keeping the young people, the analytical power turned off? Is it through the rap music? As Brother Dr. Wesley says, they weaponize the rap music.
Mhm.
Is this one way that our mind is being shut down by the garbage that's on the TV and in the movies? the commercials. I'm just saying, it's a possibility. Go ahead.
There's a possibility.
Was that Brother Scott?
I said it's a strong possibility.
Mhm.
But I think that one could spend a little time parsing that language,
Mhm.
you know, or in other words, we could ask the question, since we took everything from him, why didn't we take the language? Why did we leave him with the language? The oldest event that we have in our knowledge bank given to us by God in person, but better said, given to us by He who makes all things new. He taught us in history of several events. Now, you go back 78 trillion years, and this man is looking at us, and he's deciding what to teach us, what we would need or what would be relevant to the need of our condition. And after the self-creation and creation of the female, going back 78 trillion years, 76 to 78 trillion years, period, the very next thing that he teaches us about is deportation of the moon. 66 trillion years ago. But what was at the root of the problem of the deportation? He said a God lost his mind.
Mhm.
Why did he lose his mind? There was a problem that he ran into related to language. He wanted everybody to speak the same language. Why? Like every person on his phone has a very full life, I'm sure. And from today till the next time that you guys come together in the meeting, any number of things have taken place. Any number of things have gotten your attention. There is a lot that you can talk about between Sunday and Wednesday or Thursday. How much more could be said to you with a man who has at his disposal 78 trillion years of relevancy? Yet he chose as one of the things to tell us, well, let me tell you how the moon formed. That would have never even been a question. There's other planets with moons. There's a planet that's got moons. And let me tell you how this planet got its moon. There's a scientist, there's a God. He wanted everybody to speak the same language. He could not do it. Then you get down here, 66 trillion years later, and he's talking about an event that took place 6,600 years ago, not 66 trillion, 6,600 years ago. And we find a people that took everything from them except the language. Why? Were we able to take the language? Was that an act of beneficence on our part to leave him with the language, or were we unable to take the language? There's a sentience to language. Language is alive. If you look at it, like our little guys over here, they do hip hop and slang, right? And then like children in China pick it up. And it's like, how they do that? Like their whole existence is different than ours. How did they adopt our language and begin to like vibrate on that frequency? Albeit with the changes that come with the difference in their conditions. But it's a whole lot to language. And I think that like it really bears significant note, that it should not be kind of dismissed, like, oh yeah, I got that. Yeah, oh, I know what that means. Like, nah, maybe we should look deeper into it. Because any of us, I know for us, for me, for the people that I know, when we were coming up, during the time when Ghetto Boys and them went,
Brother Scott, unmute. Brother Scott,
can you hear me?
I hear you.
Okay. Yeah. Anywho, that's basically it. It's just the language is, and Mr. Hubbard, in book 1, I can't remember the direct quote, but my wife and I, we had spent a little time talking about this idea that he had on the sentience of language. That this thing has its own consciousness to it. You know, I don't know that you can actually own language. You know, where you can just, you know, like it's so integral to people that everything began with a word. You know, so I just wanted to interject that there because I just really felt what you were saying, Brother Lukman, and
Yes, sir.
yeah, I think it really deserves, that's the word I'm looking for. It deserves the deep reflection of those who study supreme wisdom, because there are jewels there that are left for the studiers of supreme wisdom. But everybody has their own kind of approach. So what you may get out of it may not be what I get out of it, may not be what another, but each person gets a slice of the loaf, and when we bring them together, we have a loaf of bread.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Or we could say, in the language of possibly Sister Angela, that each one of us is building our part of the mother plane, and when we come and bring our pieces together, now we're building the mother plane. Does that make sense, Brother Scott?
Allahu Akbar.
Go ahead, Sister Angela.
Okay, I got some more data. I'm going to start with the young brother Extinction, the one that was murdered. And he was murdered because he figured out the frequency that was used in music in 808, coupled with the lyrics that was mind controlling the youth. So that's why that brother was killed. And to the brother that just spoke, when Musa went to teach the devils the forgotten technology, he had to teach them language also, because they fell into 1,000 years with, it's called the Dark Ages. It's just like when we miss school for about a month and we go back, the language sounds different. If you know people that are very close in a circle, their language is what the lessons say. Maybe 400 words considered well, very limited in mobility. But as Brother Lukman brought up, Shakespeare in particular, I watch those type of movies because I just love how they make people think that they came out the caves civilized, living in towers and in castles and things of that nature. However, Shakespeare was his alias. He was someone that lived in court, meaning that he was, according to what I have learned, one of the queen's many concubines. She was so whorish, that the child that she bore from the man that they called William Shakespeare, she even had an affair with the child, which was her son. Interestingly enough, what he discovered back then, because what made him get the alias, is that he would tell the secrets in courts and plays. And he watched the response of the onlookers, visual stimulation. So he understood the power of a visual guide and visual aid. Then his, I guess, people and their social equality started realizing how much audio plays a role into how we think. So I know I heard you mention the mind control, MK Ultra. I heard you mention it before. And that is truly what's going on. And I believe 24/7. So they know how to reach whomever they need to reach, no matter what level of language that they're on, which is a key component to us. First of all, I got my stations on right now, jazz stations, because I have to remove myself from some of the things that are coming in. I'm fighting Sister Angela. Oh yeah, this is my closing comment here with the Shabazz that blew the moon.
Mhm.
So the purpose or the goal of auditing is to become clear or get to your eye,
Mhm.
your true self. Now, Shabazz could have thought he was at his true self. A lot of us think we're at our true self. However, like Sister Deborah, brother Luke Monis, she's new to Star Trek.
Mhm.
So she said, "Who is this lady with the hair for wires?" I thought that's the Borg Queen. She said, "The Borg Queen." I said, "Yeah, we are the Borg." And that's why I think they make the Borg this superior race that is drawn, like, because we are truly of a single essence. When we lean to our own whatever, we have deviated. We are trying to line our mind up with Allah in every way, shape, form, or fashion. So Shabazz had his idea, but it was not the mind. He said, "I Allah am the best knower." Surah 2 starts like that. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you, Sister Angela.
Thanks be to Allah.
What it brings to mind is it just goes to show how powerful our lessons are. Because we can take this one lesson that we've been discussing for the past 2 hours and show how it represents the reactive mind and valences and allied computations. But you can take that same lesson and bear witness to what you're talking about with the Borg. Now, some people say, well, what's that got to do with the Borg? Well, remember, Mother Tainetta Muhammad said that the scientists put the wisdom in the movies. The Borg represents a society of men and groups of men for one common cause, right?
Right.
And that's how they were able to basically run the whole universe. Everyone was afraid of the Borg because they were highly intelligent and they had one unified thought.
Mm-hmm.
And if the nation, not if, but when the nation gets to that point, when we can get rid of this reactive mind and all of us, our mind and our frequencies are, as the minister aligned his mind to the mind of the Most High Elijah Muhammad, when we can align our mind to his mind, then we would be like the Borg in the modern sense, but on a positive level. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
All right, so let's go ahead and get ready to land this plane. Okay, so the thought in mind is this: is the music keeping us in a state of analytical continuation? Now, another assignment, for those who would like to undertake the assignment, and I'm gonna try to find where in Dianetics this is listed. There's almost a whole page of words he says that are used in engrams. Has anyone studied the book 1? Do you remember that list that he speaks about, specific words?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm going to try to find out what page that's on. But my thought process is this, and this is just a theta postulate. If you look at the popular songs that are listened to in the Black community, and if you listen to now, and I'm not saying this to point any fingers at anyone, but if you look at like the Taylor Swifts and all those in the white community,
right,
the lyrics are different.
Absolutely.
Now, if you look at all the songs that are popular in the Black community, if you were to study the lyrics, I'm almost positive you're going to find certain words and phrases that are the same in all the lyrics.
Mm.
And if you to look at those lyrics and those phrases that are in the lyrics, some of us might come across circuits where we can remember these things being said to us when we were children. Some of these might be words that are actually contained in engrams that we haven't touched yet. But just by as I was going through and typing this up, it led me to believe that this is one of the ways in which they are keeping our analytical continuation. They're keeping our minds completely off and almost rendering us unconscious through the power of the word in the lyrics that they flood in the Black community. Okay. Are the TV programs designed to keep the masses illiterate or ignorant? Something to think about. How come we'll never see a show like The Cosby Show, to me, which was the greatest show ever on TV? Cosby Show. Go ahead, Brother Scott.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm really enjoying your flow. I remember the Bill Cosby sweaters. You know, that was the thing to have, is to have one of them sweaters like Bill Cosby. And that in Different World had us all wearing the HBCU sweaters. You know, the music, you know, as you know, we've been kind of doing a deep dive with it. Inshallah, on our next conference, we're gonna kind of get into drill music a little more, because it may, you know, it's one thing to be unconscious, and it's maybe that unconsciousness is necessary for a person to be moving off of a word, because what our youngsters is doing right now, you know, moving off of these words and killing each other. And when they kill each other, it's certain words they say now, you know, and it's spilling over. I'm just now starting to get, you know, to the outskirts of the hypersexuality, you know, and because you got images and words. You know, now you can have an image, you can have a word, or, you know, you can have smells. You know, so I'm really feeling this, man, and I'm very appreciative of this platform that you got. And I think that one of the things Sister Angela keep hitting on, you know, auditing, I think we're going to start to see greater and greater value both in auditing and using what the technology gives us as keys to unlock our supreme wisdom.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Brother Scott. And family, this is the brother who I was telling you about at the beginning, over Seed Incorporated. For those that were here, and I was talking about Seed Incorporated, this is the brother, along with his wife, Sister Erica, that are over that. If you haven't made contact or reached out and you want more information, you know, now would be the time to put things in the chat or whatnot. But this is the brother that is over. This is the brother I had mentioned that spoke in Tuskegee. Okay. Everyone all right so far? We're about to wrap it up. You good?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Let's see. So the one common cause. So if we're looking at this lesson from the perspective of Dianetics, the one common cause of these groups of men, the common cause of our aberration represents the content of the reactive mind. So here we're saying the devil, socially means a society of men or groups of men for one common cause. What we're saying is the engram, or the reactive mind, the engram bank, is composed of these valences, these individuals from our past that are coming together for one common cause that keeps us in an aberrated state of thinking. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So the sum total, like Legion from the Bible, of our madness is found in the content of our time track, which is like a book and is a prison. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Because the word kitab in Arabic means that which is gathered together or collected together. And our time track is a kitab. Could we say that our time track is a kitab?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we
So
can.
if we're stuck on the time track, then isn't our prison also a book?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
A story. It's like a rerun of a sitcom over and over.
over and over again. And see, in Buddhism, that's called samsara. Samsara. What samsara is a cycle of action that a person is stuck in that they can't get out of, like a hamster wheel. And so we keep doing the same things over and over again and wonder why we get the same results. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And we're stuck on our own time track. In the level of psychology, it is called obsessive compulsive behavior. Okay, obsessive compulsive behavior. And how that works is there's a certain feeling that comes up. And it's an annoyance within ourselves. And it's like we have this voice in our head that keeps telling us to do certain things. And it keeps nagging us to the point that we submit to it so that the voice will shut up. But the voice might shut up, but only for a particular period of time. Then the voice speaks up again and puts us back in that vicious cycle all over again, correct?
Yeah.
I guess no one wants to say nothing about that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You on it, bro.
And one thing that L. Ron Hubbard says in book 1, he says that when the body is the reactive mind. Okay. The body is the reactive mind. And what happens is the body will impinge almost to the point where it becomes emotionally painful if we don't submit. So some of us will go beyond one meal a day, not because we're hungry, but because the body is nagging us and nagging us. It's like the little child that keeps nagging because they want the cookie. And instead of telling the child no, you say, here, take this cookie and get the hell out the kitchen. So you give the child the cookie and they want. They want. So they already know. If I just want a cookie, I just gotta nag long enough and I'm gonna get it. Well, the body is the same way. The body will keep nagging until we give into it. And I remember Dr. A was saying that, with regards to our stomach, we have to say to our stomach, peace be still, I am God. And we gain mastery during Ramadan, but Ramadan, at the first day after Ramadan, here we go right back to what we were doing before Ramadan.
Right.
Yes.
So
Guilty.
if we look at everything in the social construct of the devil, meaning everything that's the reactive mind and the content of the reactive mind is equal in everything. So if you look at the reactive mind is like a basket in which is a whole set of objects. Everything in the reactive mind they're called perceptives. So in the reactive mind, you have people, you have places, you have things that were said, you have phrases. These are all elements of the reactive mind. And so in auditing, we're trying to get to the place, to find the person, to find what they said, or we're trying to get to the place to find what was said so we can figure out who the person was that said it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
That's kind of like auditing in a nutshell. We're looking for the time, the location, and the phrase, which will lead us to the person, or we're trying to get to the time and the location to the person to find out what was the phrase.
Mm-hmm.
And when we can find those things, then we realize it wasn't us. Okay. So when you look at equal in everything in Dianetics, that's called identification. It's the inability to evaluate difference in time, location, form, composition, or importance. And that's why we're aberrated. Because we're acting out in present time based on something that occurred in the past. And the person we're acting out in the present, we're treating them as if they were the person from the past. So we can't turn present from past.
Right.
So we're in the present and we're in the past at the same time. So what are we? We are a double-minded man, and that's why we're unstable in all our ways. or if we're dealing with what will happen in the future. You know, anxiety is worrying about something that hasn't even happened yet.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us worried about tomorrow. Tomorrow ain't got here yet.
True.
So now we're in the present, and part of our mind is in the past, and part of our mind's in the future, and you wonder why we're crazy as hell. He says the lowest level of reasoning is complete inability to differentiate, which is to say identification. And the interesting thing about the word differentiate in mathematics, the word differentiate is the ability to understand a solution with respect to past, present, or future. So you can identify the correct solution in the proper time. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the Arabic word for differentiate is furqan.
Guam.
Okay. The word furqan means, on one level in the Arabic dictionary, the ability to differentiate, which means you can take a truth. And it's not that you're changing that truth, it's just that you know how to apply that truth in the proper time. So application of truth with respect to time is not changing the truth, it's knowing the importance of time. The time and what must be done, perhaps, correct?
Yes, sir.
So the analytical mind's computation might embrace the most staggering summations of calculus, the shifty turns of symbolic logic, the computations requisite to bridge building or dressmaking. In other words, what he's saying is, when our analytical mind is working properly, we have the mind of God.
Mm-hmm.
We can handle the various levels of mathematics and trig and algebra and calculus and physics and thermodynamics and all those things, and agricultural science. We can do all those things. Any mathematical equation ever seen came from the analytical mind and might be used by the analytical mind in resolving the most routine problems. This is what L. Ron Hubbard's saying in Dianetics. However, this is not how the reactive mind works. That's so beautifully, wonderfully simple that it can be stated in operation to have just one equation. What's the one equation that the reactive mind has?
The reactive mind?
What's the one equation it operates on?
A equals everything.
Yeah.
A equals A.
Anything to anything to anything.
So in our lesson, it says socialist means a society of men or groups of men for one common cause. Equality means to be equal in everything. We can use this lesson to study the dynamics of the reactive mind. The reactive mind works the same. And that's why the reactive mind keeps our people apart from its social equality. The
Right.
reactive mind keeps us from getting close to the engram by bouncing and denying and misdirecting and grouping and holding. So again, we're using the lesson to understand the dynamics and the elements of the reactive mind. He says, recall that the reactive mind can only think on this equation, A equals A equals A. When the three A's may be respectively a horse, a swear word, and the verb to spit. Spitting is the same as horse, is the same as God. So everything is everything is everything. And that's why we act out in present time, because what we hear in the present time and who said it in the present time and how they said it in the present time is the same as it was said in the past, in the place it was in the past, in a location it was in the past. So even though we're presently in our own home speaking to our wife or our husband, when a certain phrase.
Yeah, basically, it's not like we're gonna be hanging out there.
In 1985, back in North Carolina, talking to so-and-so, and we're in the present and in the past at the same time. And that's why we're double-minded and react and aberrated. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the summary, quick summary of everything that we just covered, and this is based on Lost Found Muslim lesson number 1, question number 8. And we agree that the devil and the reactive mind are the same. Yes?
Yes, sir.
Yes. The devil's social equality could represent the sum total of valences or allies that are contained in our time track. Could we agree with that?
Yes, sir.
Mhm.
The concept of filthy, you know, because he doesn't want us to know how filthy he is. See, it doesn't say how filthy the people are, it says how filthy he is in all his affairs. Okay, so when we look at our past, it's the filth that we have today is not based on what we have done, but what has been done to us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the concept of filthy could represent what was done to us, what we witnessed, or what was experienced by us that has produced the compulsions, the habits, or obsessions that we now possess. Could we agree with that?
Yes, sir.
So a skunk or a group or groups of skunks have sprayed us, and now we are funky. However, the smell does not belong to us.
Right.
So the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan teaches us these are the spots that we must remove with the spot remover. Remember we talked about spot remover? He said, when you find a defect, rejoice.
Mhm.
Okay. So how else could we find a defect unless we're going through auditing? Because through auditing, aren't we finding these spots on our time track?
Yes, we do.
And isn't processing the same as spot removal? Running Yakub and the devil could represent processing to remove that which is causing our aberration. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. The group could be the collection of valences and allies that the reactive mind uses to keep us insane. And the common cause of our insanity is the reactive mind. Do we agree on that?
Absolutely.
Sure. It is our inability to differentiate between past and present that keeps us in a state of mental instability. And that is it.
What were you just saying? Oh, what the hell
Praise
going
be to Allah.
on? Has he lost it there?
See, beautiful.
No, because the other contact on the left
And
eye
that is the
was so
thought
off
that was on my
that I
mind.
could see the
Allah bless me
TV, but I
with
could barely
Praise
on
be
see
to Allah.
1:30 this
the-
afternoon. After
the
I came home and
caption
crashed
when it
after a
comes to
long night at
reading.
work.
I couldn't see my
Thinking
phone at
I
all
would not have
unless I
something
blew up the screen.
because Allah is the greatest.
Yes, he does.
This is the whole thing that popped out my head this afternoon between 1:30 and 4:30.
Come on.
Praise be to Allah.
Praises be to Allah,
Yeah,
brother.
I say that I give praise with the praises, and thankful to Allah for it. Anyone have any questions, thoughts, concerns, comments, suggestions, or corrections before we close it out? Go ahead, Sister Angela.
Just a thought, I think we threw this question out there a couple of times. How could Allah be in different places at the same time? And when you were covering that, we are the boards. Yeah, that's one of the answers that I see. When we are really have tapped in or are aligned with that one mind, he is absolutely everywhere. That we are aligning our minds up with him. So I can see it being answered like that.
Isn't that the way the ministers describe the use of the word we? When Allah speaks in the Quran as I, but Allah also uses the word we. So I believe the minister said that the we represent those who are in agreement or in harmony with the I.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anyone else? Brother Scott, go ahead, Brother Scott.
Yes, sir. I was just thinking, I was just talking to somebody about that a few days ago. I came in, I accepted the teachings formally at the lecture that the minister did at MUI. We Are the Overcomers Part 2. I got invited and I prayed all the way there because I've been listening to the teachings, but I didn't quite understand Master Farad Muhammad as God in the person, and that's We Are the Overcomers Part 2. That's where he jumped in at, and he dealt with that we in the Holy Quran.
Oh, good. Let me write that down.
So if y'all want to check that out on YouTube, We Are the Overcomers Part 2.
We are the overcomers, you said, Brother Scott?
Part 2.
Part 2.
There was a Part 1 and a Part 2. Part 2 was done in the gym of Muhammad University of Islam. That was the first time I was blessed with the opportunity to shake the minister's hand.
Praise be to
I
Allah.
got up and accepted. And that's when he, that's back in the day when he would be out there shaking 200, 300 hands in a row,
Mhm.
So we are the overcomers. And family, another one to put on your list to do for assignment would be the deportation of Moon by Sister Dr. Ava Muhammad.
By who?
Dr. Ava Muhammad,
Thank you.
deportation of Moon. And Brother Scott, I'm gonna put you on the spot, if you don't mind, brother. Does anyone have any questions about Seed Incorporated or would like to have question? Brother, you don't mind me putting on your spot, do you, brother?
No, of course not.
Does anyone have any questions about Brother Scott and what he and his wife are doing down in Tuskegee?
What is it?
Oh, there you go, brother.
If y'all get a chance, check out, you can put Seed Farrakhan Tuskegee in the chat in the YouTube bar, and it'll pull up a presentation that we did for the minister in 2013. Which I've really been going deep into here of late, because that was my first time actually meeting Brother Joshua Farrakhan. When the minister came down in 2013, that was during the time of What Must Be Done series. And, he wound up coming to Alabama several times that year. He came and spent 4 days with us in Tuskegee. And it was interesting because initially he was scheduled to come in 2012, but things happened. He went out of the country. He got back in, and when I invited him down, initially I wasn't necessarily inviting him to do a lecture. That was not my primary cause to invite him in my mind. I wanted to do two things. One was to introduce him to the food security initiative that we had. Second thing was I wanted to show the World Friendship Tour to the audience, with him in the audience, because I've been showing it around the country, and I wanted him to experience what we were experiencing when people were seeing that for the first time. People were in the audience crying, seeing him go to 54 nations, go to the Caribbean, go to, the different African countries and to Russia, and the way people received him. I'm saying our brothers and sisters here will be watching that with tears streaming down their faces. And I wanted him to experience that. And so he wound up spending 4 days with us. And he left. He went down to Enterprise, Alabama. He had a traveling companion named Mr. Coleman with him, who was one of his barbers. And he took Mr. Coleman back to his hometown. And Mr. Coleman passed away not so long after that. But it was very, very beautiful how our minister took his barber on this tour with him so that he could visit his family, down deep in the rural south of Alabama. And he left, and then he came back again shortly afterwards to fight for voting rights. He was invited down to protect the rolling back of Black people's voting rights, and he did 4 cities: Birmingham, Selma, Montgomery, and Shelby County.
Get out.
And I was laughing about it with somebody because of, you know how things go with us sometimes. You get all these personalities, and, the minister had really lifted us way up. And so during the second trip that he came, I was way far off. And so I was in Selma in some nondescript building, and the minister walks in. Now I'm way as far way out, and the minister walks into this building, and he's celebrating Reverend Bevel's greatest movements, because this is the right to vote movement. And Reverend Bevel's son walked in and said, "Oh, minister, if you want to know who was really working with my dad, it was that man right there." And he pointed to me. The minister came and grabbed me, And the next thing I know, we were walking across the Edmund Pettus Bridge together. And I was walking point in front of him, and somebody snapped a picture, and it was the front page of the Final Call.
Flower, but
Allahu Akbar. And it was like, it's interesting. But this was all during the time and what must be done. And then the minister brought us out to Chicago, my wife and I, and he told us in words that he was going to be coming back to Tuskegee for the Holy Day of Atonement. And if you listen to the series, The Time of What Must Be Done, where he was laying out the depopulation agenda, he spoke about Tuskegee several times, both as part of the depopulation agenda, because that's where the experiment happened, and then announcing and promoting the Holy Day of Atonement, where he said all roads lead to Tuskegee. Brother Joshua Farrakhan was one of the hedges around our minister.
Yeah.
And in a 15-month span, he lost the first hedge, Sister Ava, where he said the hedge was being taken from around him. And her death was the ringing of the bell that the test has started. Don't forget that, family. Then we lost Brother Jabril. 7/7/2023. 7/7/7. I'm sorry, 7/16, July 16th. That's the same day that they ignited the first nuclear bomb in New Mexico. During this time, you start hearing more and more about the splitting of the atom, this new nuclear bomb talk that's filling the atmosphere. And Brother Jabril leaves, I'll say it like that, on that day, makes his transition, whatever, however that means to whoever, he left the scene. And he was a big hedge around our minister. And then Brother Joshua leaves. When Brother Jabril left, the following month, he left in July. August saw Africa start to stand up. Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. They all started kicking the French out. September was real big. Then on October 7th, well, that day